It is now time for What's Hot, where we talk about the stories that have us all talking.
And today we're joined by Paulsen from BizStarts Milwaukee, and Jeff Wagner is back. So school shootings are far more frequent in America than in other countries. The latest in Chardon, Ohio. 3 students were killed. Experts say American attitudes toward bullying and mental illness could be factors. Violent role models, access to guns also could be part of all of this. So the question, what needs to be done?
I think as a starting point, we need to do a better job of intervening in these situations where you obviously have these troubled youth. Now, this is a case, you look at the background, this kid that was involved in this stuff in Cleveland, and he's got Facebook postings where he's holding guns and pointing them. He's writing stuff on his Facebook where he's clearly showing violent tendencies. This is a story that plays out over and over again. I mean, I think as a starting point, we've got to intervene earlier, because this isn't a deal like, after the serial killer is found, the neighbors say, well, we're surprised this happened. This was predictable, and a lot of these are predictable.
And it's pretty sad that they always say, oh, everybody's in shock that this happened. It's not even that shocking anymore, because they happen with depressing regularity. I think intervention's a big thing, but also education, teaching kids how to handle adversity. If they're having a problem with something, how to deal with it. And a lot of these kids don't seem to know how to deal with it in a healthy way.
Right, and the point they were talking about earlier, like in the introduction, also, I mean, there's no question about, you have these issues with access to firearms and things like that. Now, this isn't a gun control spiel that I'm going to go on, but I do think from the perspective of parents, in this case in Cleveland, the kid came from a very, very troubled and abusive background, but I think this is also another situation, where parents, especially if you've got these kids that are manifesting some of these things, you've got to do some stuff yourself to keep at least access to firearms, make it more difficult for these kids. Some of these situations, there's guns around the house, and you're saying, how could these kids have access to these firearms?
It doesn't even seem that we're learning from history, because if you look at Columbine, it was right in front of these parents in one of the shooter's cases, and they didn't see it. I mean, this kid's room is full of stuff. I mean, how do you not see that? So I think definitely
denial is huge in these, and that's unfortunate.
Yeah, but when you're talking about lives lost because of your kid, you better get out of that denial phase.
And we're becoming desensitized. Remember the big deal when that Columbine shooting happened? That was all that people talked about on the radio or in television, the headlines for day after day. Now we have these things that happen. And yeah, it gets a little bit discussion. I'm afraid
but it's
we're
not
desensitized.
The same, right?
Yeah, right.
No.
But it still happens.
Okay, our next topic coming up next: a gruesome tour highlighting a pretty gruesome event in Milwaukee's history.
Joined by Paulsen from BizStarts Milwaukee and Jeff Wagner from News Radio 620 WTMJ. A lot of us were shocked by this story yesterday. A 3-year-old boy just left at a McDonald's in Wauwatosa. He's safe now. He was taken to police custody. The boy's grandmother apparently dropped off the boy on Monday. His mother thought it was supposed to be a different day. Nobody called police for 24 hours. Nobody knew the boy was missing until his picture showed up on TV yesterday. This appears to be the result of a messy custody fight between the mom and the dad. Should anybody involved here face a penalty?
I'm just going to say really quick that the mother and the father in this situation need to grow up and be adults. I mean, this is affecting a child. No matter how you feel about each other, get it together, make the system work for your child.
And the grandmother ought to as well, because she left the kid at the McDonald's. I mean, she's supposed to hand him to the mother or the father, and she just left.
Right, so all adults involved in this situation, be adults.
Okay, everybody in the newsroom is now running away from me in my little box here, because my head is getting ready to explode about this entire thing. Okay, first of all, who in their right mind takes a 3-year-old child to a McDonald's and then just leaves them there, assuming that some other parent is going to come in? I mean, that's the start. I mean, that's child abandonment, period. I don't care if they'd worked out things in the past. You wouldn't leave a 12-year-old child unattended, much less a 3-year-old child. Okay, that's number one. Number two, all right, the mom, her story is she thought she was supposed to pick up the kid on Sunday, so she goes and waits, and he never shows up. Why isn't she calling the dad, going, hey, where are you with my child? I mean, isn't that something? And then while we're at it, the restaurant manager, I still don't understand this. You find a 3-year-old abandoned in your store, and you take the kid home for 24 hours instead of calling the cops?
That's a very strange part of this that really isn't getting any attention.
Yeah,
I mean,
okay.
poor
I mean,
kid.
I
It's like
don't
a
know if
ping
you
pong
know,
ball.
but I mean, right? You find a child. Oh, gee, if I walk out to our studio in the front here, and there's an unattended 3-year-old child that's sitting there as we're getting ready to close the office, this receptionist isn't going to take him home. She's going to be calling the cops. What's going on here?
You know, every level of the system in this case failed for this child.
Yeah. Yeah, if I were child social services, I'd be asking a lot of really hard questions before I let this child get anywhere near any of the adults that are involved here.
Yeah, let's hope so. All right, our
Hope
third
there's some
topic.
extended family that can help.
It is a tour that retraces Jeffrey Dahmer's steps. And get this, there is a Groupon deal for the tour today. Some people think it's tacky. Others say, hey, it's no different than a Jack the Ripper tour in London. What do you think?
I think they're both right. I mean, it's creepy and it's tacky, and it plays to kind of the fascination with the gruesome, gruesomeness and death that so many people are fascinated by. But there are Jack the Ripper tours. There's similar tours of things like this around, and they're popular
Good
with
gangster
people.
tour in Chicago.
Yes,
you
you
think
can.
about the number of people that
Do
were
we know how
killed.
much this costs? Do we know how much it costs
It
to
was
go on the
just- I
tour?
think
I-
it was
25
60,
bucks.
It
For
was
the
60
Groupon.
discounted to 25.
Right,
20
for the Groupon.
60
like
down to
Eric said,
25.
yeah.
$25 or $60?
$60 for a mile.
Okay, another example of God's way of telling you that you have too much money is you can drop $60 on a walking tour of
You know
this
what?
particular
Some people
area.
are fascinated by this. I mean,
I
this is
understand.
another one of the bizarre stories that surround Jeffrey Dahmer, honestly.
I understand people might be fascinated with it. It's still, you're going to spend money to walk
not
through
arguing
the
with
It's a
you.
morbid
Okay.
fascination, and it's strange.
I know those neighborhoods. Save your money. That's my advice. Save the money.
As one who lived at the 22nd Wisconsin for a couple of years.
Right.
Yeah.
You
Well,
don't
the
need to-
building's not even there anymore.
No.
No, you're looking at an empty lot.
Right.
This is where it happened. Okay.
We'll take
Save
a
your
quick-
money.
We'll take a break.